Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 162. I'm here with my co-facilitator, I know.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing today? How you doing today, Mike?
I'm good, brother, yourself.
I am well.
All right. Please hit the like button as you come in and share the stream. And there is a doc in the description beneath the video. Follow that along with us as we conduct this hangout. Let me see if I can share my screen. Also, I want to take some time and give Nicole Ali a shout out because she was on Nicole Michelle's Nicole Michelle's hangout, and she gave us a shout out there. So she did
Okay.
a lot of. She did an interview today on Nicole Michelle's hangout, and she sounded like a Brain Trust member. So if you get a chance to listen to that, it's actually really good.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So first one is from BusinessInsider.com. African cities are running out of water, and the continent needs $66 billion to avoid a crisis of disease and dehydration. One of, or it should be one in, but it's one of every three people in Africa is affected by water scarcity. I know you're gonna have to mute yourself, please.
Hey, can you mute me real quick?
Oh, I checked you. Sorry. The circumstance in which a region's available water supply isn't enough to meet demand. In nations like Ghana, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, water shortages can raise people's risk of getting sick. Since when water is in short supplies, households often hoard the precious resource indoors, creating a breeding ground for disease carrying mosquitoes. Water is also needed to run toilets and basic sanitation facilities. In its absence, residents are often forced to defecate in rivers, a practice that contains fresh water with bacteria, viruses, and parasites. Contaminated water also puts residents at risk. Uh, residents at increased risk of diseases like cholera and typhoid fever, which can cause dehydration and malnutrition. That's the case in in even major cities like Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, the capital city of Ghana, which are becoming more dense and urbanized. Between 2016 and 2050, Africa's population is expected to double, with 80% of new residents located in urban areas. This growth could provide new economic opportunities and higher living standards for urban residents, but only if cities are equipped to handle the strain of their water resources. What's more, when women and young girls are forced to walk miles to the nearest water supply, their ability to attend school or earn an income becomes significantly diminished. The African Development Bank estimated last year that it would require as much as $66 billion to provide universal access to water and sanitation across Africa. That doesn't include the more than $170 billion to build critical infrastructure like dams and purification plants. With these resources in place, cities like Cape Town, South Africa, could find themselves ill-equipped to deal with drought and might eventually run out of water. This is crazy. This is really crazy. Um, Tonight's topic is about infrastructure, and one of the things that we talk about, we're trying to focus on is how do you provide infrastructure as an investment. I see Complex Designs in the hangout. What's going on, Complex? Um, this has to be discussed because there's this sort of idea that you're going to repatriate to Africa if you're an African American and so on and so forth. But if the infrastructure is not in place, what are you repatriating to? You have land, but you don't have water. Water is the high necessity, high priority for survival. I mean, you can go without food, and you can probably change your diet from meat, to tofu or something like that, or just become a vegetarian or a vegan. But without water, you're not going to survive very long. So the idea here is, how do you provide infrastructure at the micro scale per village, per section of a country, and so that you can survive another day or another lifetime. So
Yeah. Now with this is not nothing new. There's been water crisis going on throughout Africa for a very long time, and it's in Africa's current situation been going on for a very long time. The thought that there's no infrastructure in terms of having small villages and rural areas have sufficient water and clean water to drink and do other things that they need is appalling. I know I remember looking at a documentary about in South Africa, and they installed some water pipes to top wells, but the villagers had to pay for that. I think it was a documentary about water. Now, in terms of infrastructure, the government of these different African countries and the local government, this water is needed. It's a basic necessity. You're not going to survive very long without water. Uh, you'll die of dehydration before you die of lack of nutrients. So it's a basic necessity. You cannot overlook that. So that needs to be a foundation. That needs to be part of your rebuilding foundation, or not even rebuilding, building foundation. Just like a lot of these other countries, you need a way to feed and uh, provide clean water for your country, for your people. That's part of infrastructure. That is needed. We know that. In terms of how, there's I don't know this as a fact, but let's just say there's wells and underwater freshwater reservoirs throughout Africa. There needs to be a way to tap that and distribute that um, in a what's the word I'm looking for, in a efficient way where it does you don't tap a well dry and you don't get nothing from it. You don't use the water in an efficient way. That's on a smaller scale. But on a larger scale, yes, Africa's population is due to explode within the next few decades, and a lot of these populations are around coastlines and around some type of river and water resources. So speaking about the coastlines, you can build desalination plants. We went over technologies where they well, someone, I don't want to keep saying someone built a device that will suck the moisture out of the surrounding air, providing water. That can be a supplement to whatever smaller infrastructure that you build. So there's ways. It's just that we don't see it being built on a scale for it to be seen. It's not. We're not saying that it's not being done, but it's not being done enough across the continent to for us to quickly point and say, "Look, they're doing it here, so replicate it over here." We don't see it.
hmm yeah, and I'm thinking, how do we tie in all this emerging tech into something like water? How do you put how do you leverage blockchain, tokens, crypto tokens, and things of that nature, um, cloud computing, IoT into water water conservation,
Now, I'm.
right? So that's
Oh,
my
go ahead. My
mindset
bad.
right there. That's my mindset. That's my mindset as to how do you approach micro infrastructure in these regions, but not just in Africa, but places in Latin America as well. But the topic is Africa tonight. But um, how do you leverage those emerging technologies for something like water conservation, especially from an infrastructure perspective, from a micro infrastructure perspective?
Now, I imagine you can treat water and water conservation the same way you can treat energy and energy conservation. We went over articles specifically in Nigeria where they're using building infrastructure for energy blockchain where you can distribute the energy to areas and to households and to businesses and to places where that needs it. So whatever energy that you're harnessing from the sun and the electrical grid, you are now using it in the most efficient ways you can. Now, that blockchain idea, take it toward water. So with that micro infrastructure, you have to survey the land to find freshwater deposits, freshwater reservoirs, tap those, and build a freshwater reservoir. I'm not talking about no open, something that will blend in with a the environment and be with the culture. So now you have pipes that'll distribute and connect to other freshwater reservoirs and resources and add the technology blockchain on top of it. Also, you have that device that sucks the moisture out of the air, attach that to some type of IoT and attach those to blockchain. So now you're building a more efficient way to tap water, receive get water from the surrounding air. So now you have to have a way to distribute it across large areas of land. If you're not going to reconnect it, if you're not going to connect the whole grid up, at least connect it some way where each section, if they are by themselves, they don't need, they're not going to be, lack of a better term, SOL if the water is gone. You know what I'm saying? There's ways, and I'm saying that I you can almost treat the water the same way as the energy grid, water grid, and the energy grid.
Hmm. So right, so now you're talking about creating a utility service,
Hmm.
but the other aspect is you need a water tower, right? A water tower holds anywhere between half a million to a million gallons of water. So
Now, oh, go ahead.
there's a lot of right. There's a lot of water that's lost. If you look at the image that we had, from the article, you see the little child or boy trying to drink water from that pipe. But think about how much that pipe is dripping per
Mm,
hour, right? So
yep.
if you're losing if you're losing 5 or 10 gallons per,
Oh,
I know there's a lot of
no, this was Sony. With Sony, you got a lot of noise
oh,
coming through.
right. So if you're losing a couple of gallons an hour, you have to factor that over, a 24-hour span, and then you're talking at least 30 gallons of water is being lost. 30 gallons times 30 days. Um, you're losing a considerable amount of water for that one area. How do you um, how do you ensure that you're not losing any gallons of water? Because a gallon of water is enough for a household to actually live off of. They can boil it. They can use it for hydration. They can use it to water you know, uh, their their plants in house, their greens in house. Things there's a variety of things that how it could be used in the household, and you have to factor in why how do you conserve all of that lost water.
Now, with the
So Sonia, go ahead.
oh yeah, go ahead with
I'm
Sony.
trying
My
to talk
bad.
with Sonia.
A piece to the chat. I guess my question is, and again, I'm speaking as an ignorant person. I'm not a hydrologist, but I'm asking myself, what about the desalination of of ocean water? I mean, just thinking about it, I guess at the end of the day, that is a water treatment plant, and I have to think of the infrastructure. Getting the ocean water or seawater into pumping it in an efficient way that I can get to obviously not only the big cities but the small cities as well. And obviously, energy comes to a factor. How much energies the energy expenditure, how much energy is being used to again to desalinate the ocean water compared to energy being taken from ground tap water. Forgive me for my voice. I'm just coming over a cold, so I can't be as I can't say it with my chest. But I mean that's just something um that I have in mind. Also, the rain collection. When I was in Colombia, that's actually how basically water is is uh is basically collected. You have these massive 1,000 liter tubs on all the houses. This is why I had a habit of telling brothers, in Colombia, a lot of these bad families you seeing, they don't have hot water, and they don't. It isn't like some parts of Florida or in rural areas where you can opt in depending on where you are, either for well water, which needs a water softener, or city water, in which obviously certain piping would be necessary in order for you to use it. So I'm asking myself, again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse either. If desalination is an option, then the question is, does these African countries have the necessary power grid, whether it's coming from, and again, I'm just naming coal, natural gas, electric, wind, solar, things of that sort, to go ahead and do so. And obviously, how much would it cost? What's the human capital behind it? I would think a project like that would be beneficial because now these high unemployment rates can be somewhat decimated, with work projects. But I do understand that capital would be necessary, and here comes the necessary evil. As far as China, who's gonna front the money? Are there certain resources that could be used as an exchange for certain economies that are resource based, if anything? I'm just throwing it all out there.
Oh, now for the desalination, I know Australian is doing it, but the last time I heard, it
Beautiful.
takes a lot of energy to
Mm-hmm.
desalinate because what you have to do is once you pump that water through pipes, you have to go through some, I think they say a cardboard or some type of way to um, extract the salt away from that water. So but you have to pump that through the pipes a number of times. Last time I heard was they were using a process that will like an electrical process that will attract the water away and out, the salt away and out of the water. Now, this type of infrastructure doesn't have to be a one fits all infrastructure, meaning one
Of
thing and
course.
you're done. So with the population that's on the coast, you can do both desalination plants and rainwater. So you will both have those supplementing each other, and like the technology that I was speaking to earlier, where you suck the moisture out the air. So now you have the desalination plant, you have the sun
It's like
providing,
an ionizer.
yeah, the ionizer, yes. You have the sun that's powering, and the sun and renewable energies that's powering the desalination plants. You are capturing rainwater through reservoirs, and you are sucking the moisture out of air. So now you have all these ways of getting water. Now, in the more rural areas that are away from the coastal lines, what you can do is perch, like Mike said, perch these water towers on high land. So when you tap the wells, tap freshwater reservoirs and wells. B, catch rainwater. And C, suck the moisture out your air. You are holding these in these reservoirs that are up on hills. So now you're having gravity uh, be basically the plumber and force the water down into these lower, excuse me, lower areas where the gravity will allow the people to retrieve water in whichever way is possible. Um, there was something else I was going to say, but it could be a multi-pronged attack in terms of providing water. And once you get that water, building the infrastructure necessary that will make it easier. Use your common sense in terms of when I said putting the water towers up on hills, higher hills, and letting gravity work for you. So there's ways to do it. And I just said three: the desalination plants, tapping wells, um, capturing rainwater in these large reservoirs, and treating the water also, and sucking moisture out the air. And also, since it's Africa, it straddles the continent, straddles the equator. You have a lot of renewable resources
Of
that you can
course.
use to power a lot of these facilities and ways to treat and pump this water around. So there's ways. It's just that um, to be honest, I'll be blunt here. African governments have to get off their butt. And I'm not saying all are doing this, but it seems like no one is doing it. Just from the outside looking in, have to put things in place in order for this to happen.
I'm going to be presumptuous and say the president of Rwanda, or perhaps I'm giving the brother too much credit. And even if I am, I think he and the
Oh,
administration
Kagame.
deserves, yeah, Paul Kagame, some type of credit um, on what he's doing over there. Second, and again, I don't want to turn this to something political, but this is the reason why I gravitate towards Julius Malema and all his imperfections. For the fact that you have a fairly young man, I don't even think the brother is even over 40. I want to say 35 might be pushed it, but I may be incorrect. And something like that could rejuvenate it because, and again, forgive me for derailing the thread, but I think this is an opportunity in which, much like Ghana, South Africa, and again, I use Julius Malema because I'm going to presume that he would allow, as far as his government concerned, on a federal level, it just might be a conducive, like how Ghana is doing with the year to abode. I think that something like that might be beneficial. Now, granted, if he does come into power, there's going to be a lot of European-based companies who going to feel some type of way, and as far as
Yeah,
the economy, that's going to be affected. So,
yeah, get on
I
top
don't.
of a bit there, brother.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it's, and again, forgive me for being uh uh too glassy-eyed, but I mean, I think there's a good possibility. Now, this is and I'm pretty sure that we have brothers and sisters who work. I mean, matter of fact, I know we have brothers and sisters who work in utilities. I mean, again, it's a government job, or at least contracted by the government on various levels. You get what I'm saying? So, but the thing is, um, what incentives beyond just an ideological approach? What incentives could be given? And I would hope that, if not citizenship, at least residency, fast track residency, would just be one option. Like, hey, you get what I'm saying? Okay, we're finally in power. We can do this. We can do that. Um, because it's
Yeah, more than likely, the people that the diaspora black people, Africans that go to Africa, it'll pay attention more to the adoption curve. Just like with cryptocurrencies, the people that are who are adopting it first are the first adopters. Those are the people who are willing to take risks and take chances. Those are the people who will do it first and go over to Africa first. And knowing that it has to be infrastructure to be put in place, you're not going to go over there with a grandiose ideology of ancient Africa, ancient Egypt times. It's going to look that way. Those will be the first adopters. So it'll go along the adoption curve. Now, once infrastructure get more in place, and once those A diasporans and B Native Africans come together and build the type of infrastructure that's needed to provide a creature comfort and amenity living society, then you'll see more and more Black slash Africans, use those words interchangeably, come over to Africa and start to build more and more culture. So now you that first adoption curve is starting to look like a compound curve. So it's going to go up more and more. So now you're going to see an influx of infrastructure being built all over the place. But it'll be the first adopters, those people who are willing and ready to go over to build that type of infrastructure. And to get back on track with the water supply, you can build you have blockchain. This water supply built on a blockchain system because you can store water more better than you can store energy. So the water that's left over per blockchain saying, hey, water is used this much in these certain areas, you can store that water. Now with the IoT, you go ahead.
I just want to make sure that
This much in these certain areas, you can store that water. Neil, somebody got.
Yeah, I have to mute him. But I just want to make sure that we get complex in as well.
Okay.
Oh, greetings, gentlemen. I was kind of in and out during the first piece, but I had a feeling that Lionel was going to reference. Yeah, okay. I had a feeling Lionel was going to reference blockchain with regards to water management, because I think that that's crucial with regards to any sort of infrastructure projects starting at this point going forward. So I had that thought, but I mean, I think Wilsonian may have mentioned something with regards to citizenship. Now, was he mentioning that with regards to African Americans getting engaged in infrastructure projects on the continent? I mean, I just wanted to.
Yeah, and that's when I said the first adoptions that go over are the ones that's willing and ready to build that infrastructure, knowing that it has to be built.
Okay.
Those are the ones that will go over furthest, willing and ready. Not everybody's going to go over first.
Well, no, I could tell him just directly. So from some of the discussions that Noah and I have had with delegates in various nations over in Africa, like that would be part of the package. Okay, so that would be part of the package if a consortium, and we've spoken to this multiple times, any sort of projects of this scale is going to require a consortium. And if you've got a consortium of companies, legal representatives, various individuals that represent various either skill sets or industries, and you're coming as a consortium, so it's not just one or two people, but it's going to be a group of people speaking with the governments of these countries who are looking at wide scale projects. So if you have either the technology, you have the equipment, you have the skill set, the intelligence, the technology, or the capital, if you have any of those things, and those are going to be primary components to make something happen, they're going to put citizenship on the table. They told us this, so I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, that's good to hear. I had something in mind, but it just escaped. It just escaped me. Do you think that it would behoove, I guess, us as the descendants to start going to these you have a lot of black business. For example, there's one thing that might be going on tomorrow in Orlando. A black business consortium over here is probably going to be at the convention center. You think it would behoove us to start going to these places? I mean, like, and I guess one of the issues that we have is that when you have those who coming from the conscious community, and I'm really talking about, and I use this lightly, by me, the upper crust. I'm not talking about those who've been on this chitlins circuit for the last, whether it be 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, again, there's only so many videos on Amos Wilson and all the other prophets that you could watch, so many books that you can read until you have to put the pedal to the metal. Right. But do you think that it would behoove us to start make some type of almost say a rallying cry, or as I say in the Bible, when the angels start blowing the trumpets, You get what I'm saying, or what have you.
I
Because
mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, bro. Go ahead.
no. That was it. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, I was gonna say, consider what we do here 4 times a week, a rallying cry, right? Short of that, I mean, we all are actually active. We have businesses, we have key areas of technology that serve as our primary focal points. So we're also active too. So we have to be very pragmatic in our approach and be results oriented. I mean, at this point, man, 2019 going into 2020, and I'm gonna try to keep this real short. It's really about what's being produced, and what it's about what's being produced. It's really not about the rallying cry anymore. I mean, the rallying cry has been going on for however long it's been going on up until this point, right?
Yep.
Okay, so the rallying cry is pretty much going to be, in our view, the Brain Trust view, the rallying cry is going to be hardcore dissemination of information to be
Okay.
followed up by action.
Do you think that?
What's Tony? We have another guest on the panel. We want to get him in.
Excuse me. Go ahead, brother.
Brother Elevation, peace, bro.
Peace, brother.
What's going on, brother?
Peace. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We can hear you. Put some volume on your mic, please.
Okay, is that better?
There you go.
Yes, sir.
100. Yes, sir. I'm in Houston, Texas. I just want to say thank you for inviting me on, and I'm just glad to be here. I know you guys moved past the cryptocurrency, so I'm not going to dwell on that. So I'm just chiming in. I'm just listening right now.
That's what's up.
Okay. All right. Let's jump to the next article so we don't get.
One quick interjection. Dear brother who just jumped on from Houston, Texas, is there a way I could communicate? Excuse me. I can communicate with you, I guess, off channel in regards to Houston, because that's one of the places I've been thinking about heavily considering moving from Orlando to Houston. So having somebody with that's set up there, and someone like yourself, if you're even on this channel, I think it would do me a lot of service. So hopefully there's a way I can communicate in regards to that. I can take my time.
Yeah, we definitely gonna chop it up just real quick. Back in 2007, the Black Enterprise listed top 10 cities in America for Black Americans to move to, and Houston was in that. They went by things such as what's the Black gross domestic product, what's the percentage of home ownership, what is the home loan rejection rate of people who apply for homes. And Houston's GDP, Black GDP, is $13.2 billion. Well, in excess of that, pardon me, excess. But I'm not going to dwell on that. But and we got sources for that too, in case anybody want them. It's not just like rainbow out the air or something.
Well, I'm gonna link Elevation in the email chain, and then we can also definitely connect offline. But I know Mike wants to go on to this article here.
Bet.
All right. So this next article is from geneticliteracyproject.org. Egypt poised to again lead Africa in agricultural biotechnology innovation. Just read the first few paragraphs. When will Egypt again lead Africa in agricultural biotech innovation? That question kept running. If you're not talking, please mute yourself.
Okay.
All right. That question kept running through my mind when I visited the North African country last year to participate in the United Nations annual biodiversity conference. Egypt has a rich history and has always led social and technological advancements in the world. It's believed to be one of the two places on Earth where civilization defined as the process of human beings taking charge of their natural environment and carefully developing them into planned societies where clear cultural and social structures began before spreading to the rest of the world. Egypt is also one of the areas where commercial agricultural production was born, as ancient occupants of the land developed irrigation facilities along the River Nile to grow wheat, barley, and other staple crops. And Egypt's history of applying innovation to ensure food security dates to biblical times, when it stored more than enough food for its own citizens and was able to feed the rest of the world during famine. Even in modern days, Egypt continues to lead the world in agriculture and innovative food production. In 2008, Egypt's Ministry of Agriculture approved the domestic cultivation of genetically modified corn. 2 years later, Egypt became the second African country after South Africa to allow commercialization of GMO foods. Its BT maize, known as GYG, resulted from genetic modification of a local corn variety. It showed almost 100% resistance to three main corn borer pests and yielded better than conventional varieties. Each scientific community hailed the move, and hope hope grew that the nation that exported civilization to the rest of the world would embrace agriculture, biotechnology, and lead the rest of Africa in that direction. Thousands of hectares of the new GMO corn variety were born in 10 provinces in Egypt. But in 2012, the Egyptian government suspended the planting of GMO corn, citing the absence of a biosafety law governing the production and commercialization of such products. All other GMO focused works were halted, and Egypt has not returned to the technology. I basically want to stop there because, again, food production, agriculture is a part of infrastructure. So,
Right.
pass it around the panel. You guys can jump in.
Yeah. Now this is interesting because Africa as a continent is a north-south is north-south geography. You mentioned that numerous of times, Mike, pertaining to um, I forgot the technology. It's skipping my mind, but it's a north-south uh, continent, meaning in Egypt is more desert than it is, vast more desert than it is farmland and greenery. The main greenery farmland is along the Nile River, but that Nile River natural Nile River greenery farmery stretches so far out in both directions, east and west, around the Nile River. Now, what Egypt is doing is using Monsanto. And per this article, Monsanto products in order to grow their agriculture. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to grow your agriculture because what Mike just said is a part of infrastructure. But per what we said yesterday, Monsanto, their products, mainly Roundup, is causing cancer. Now, what Monsanto does in their seeds is they build in a type of bug resistant seed. Now, that what that leads to, the jury is still out. Now, it's interesting that Egypt is leading Africa, the continent, this continent that if you look Peterson's projection map, how large it is leading this continent in agriculture. Now, I just said Africa is a north-south orientated continent, meaning the area around the, excuse me, the equator has the most lush green vegetation land in Africa. The Congo Basin, the Congo jungle, is the second largest rainforest after the Amazon rainforest. Not utilizing those lands for agriculture and being the lead in Africa in agriculture and shipping that produce to places say like the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Doha, other place over there, Yemen, is appalling because you have areas such as Rwanda, like what Sonia Garai just mentioned, that has one of their resources is arable land. So now you have the Democratic Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, you have Uganda, and all these other places that have lush vegetation where it's to the point where if you drop a seed, something's going to grow. But you have a country where a vast majority of its land is desert, leading this continent's agriculture in agriculture tells you that the infrastructure is severely lacking in Africa.
Complex. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't really have much on this one other than, I think that, well, I guess my input on this would be that there does need to be a, um, as far as the genetic variants of the vegetative plants that are going to be grown from an agricultural standpoint there, I do believe that there has to be a robust infrastructure to support that. There's not a lot of like vegetative exports, right, that come from Africa that come here to the States, for example.
Mhm.
You know, so in order to see like a future export market with regards to agriculture and stuff like that, I do believe that there has to be a merging of not only the technology, but I think in terms of Africans looking at what they have as staples in terms of grains and what have you. Noah, shoot, this was maybe like late 2017, I think. He had sent me some this African grain called fonio, and I had never heard of it, but he had sent it to me, and I did some research online and looked in it, and I came up with some different ways to cook it and stuff like that, and you know and he and I talking about it because that was one of the first projects we were looking at was like food importation, things that are that come from Africa that most people don't know about, but could actually be like good export or import items. So I do think that having like a robust like bio like a technological infrastructure made it to a lot of their agricultural products that could be available for export. I think that's key.
Mhm.
I
Go ahead.
will say, I will say this. Um, the Congo. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but the Congo should be a juggernaut. I mean, I'm beating a dead horse. I'm not telling you guys anything that you guys don't know. I would like to know how much arable land, and I don't know if that includes the rainforest, because information that I got is that I guess depending on what you're trying to grow, the rainforest may not be the best place. But I'm asking myself if there was a certain patch, if there was a certain amount of land in which it was strategically deforested. I'm pretty sure that those cut trees could somehow, almost like how you have certain oceanographers who will use certain remnants of ships to rebuild a coral reef. I would think that those cut trees could be placed somewhere in the ecosystem. Excuse me. I mean, no, it's not native per se, but it's somehow being used or what have you. But the Congo by itself on the sheer size, I believe the Congo might be larger than Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Not as large as Alaska, but certainly larger than Texas, if I'm not mistaken. And it could feed the whole continent. I don't see why. I just it's and again, I don't want to derail it. At the end of the day, it comes to about politics, but it's just absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, you have countries around this world that would give half the population to have an ecosystem that the Congo possesses, but that's a different conversation, different time.
Oh, never mind. I don't want to skip the line.
Now go ahead. Elevated.
Yeah, Paul Bryant made an excellent point. Yes, Africa do have problems with rainy season and dry season, drainage, landslides, and therefore, thus the reason per the first article, creating an infrastructure via blockchain and IoT. When you are able to predict the weather using these Doppler radar systems to the point where you know that a torrential downpour will occur in certain areas of a country, an area of a country, and an area of the continent, you are more better prepared. Much like, and I'll bring this up, when people knew the Hurricane Katrina was going to come, they knew it was going to be such a strong hurricane, it's going to cause havoc. Same with Hurricane Harvey. Not to say that you're going to be perfect, but it will put you in a way much better position to have a situation where you can circumvent lost lost land, lost lives, and lost vegetation and farming. With the Congo Basin and the Congo rainforest, I'm not. I don't think people should plant vegetation in those areas, but around the edges, around that rainforest, is enough where you can plant vegetation, vertical farming, and other ways where you can, excuse me, I almost bit my tongue. Other ways where you can maximize the vegetation in that land, and you can still import whatever's left over to these Middle Eastern nations that are full of dirt and sand. There's ways. There is ways.
Who else wants
Yeah,
to
what's
jump in?
good, D?
How you doing, AD?
Peace. Can you hear me?
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, how you?
How's everybody going?
All right.
Good, good.
Excuse me, go ahead.
Peace.
Go ahead.
I just want to ask one last question. Do you
Wait,
think
we got an echo. I think Elevation. Can you mute up, please?
Yes.
okay? I'm just asking myself, and again, I understand that China's at the end all be all, but my question is, do you? They said, what's the saying in the army, in the military? If you find yourself in a hole, the first thing that you need to do is stop digging. So I'm asking myself, as BJ stated, if the infrastructure projects with China is a deal with the devil that's been made, do you negotiate the deal? Do you add a new deal? How does that work? Or is it strictly as far as the government is concerned? Because I don't want to give the impression that you don't have Africans on the continent who don't have some type of method. I think we're doing our brothers and sisters there a disservice because they've been there for the last 300,000 years. But my question is, I mean, there's is it the government that obviously needs to do more internal investments, or do you try to speed up the situation by sleeping with the devil a tad bit longer?
Well, the issue isn't so much as you put it. It's more about black people in America are not organized to actually to challenge foreign entities trying to do business on the continent. So the first thing that needs to be done is that there needs to be organization on the side of the West, and then you can go over there and try to renegotiate deals, because you can't. What are you renegotiating with? What's your leverage? When foreign entities come to the continent, they come with briefcases of money, and if you're only showing up with a backpack, it doesn't really look too good on your behalf of doing business. So we've had these discussions the last month or so, and there has to be there has to be an understanding of how to do business abroad. You can do business online through social media and things like that, but you have to have boots on the ground, and you have to come as a collective. And when you're going against foreign entities, foreign powers, you're going up against a nation state. That's like David going up against Goliath. So you have to take that into consideration, that America doesn't have your back like that. So black people, especially black men, need to come over there suit and ties and really be able to demonstrate what their capabilities are.
I mean, you have VCs that have literally, bought countries, right? You have venture capital firms, right? So you have private interests that are like controlling shareholders of nations. Okay,
Right.
so it doesn't necessarily, the view doesn't necessarily have to be, well, like what Mike said, the United States won't necessarily have the back of black men going over there to do business like that, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. But because there's examples where, again, you just have private interests who just have a concentrated interest, and if they find that there is a country that is abundant in resources that closely aligns with their interests, they're all in and they're going to go ham. So it's kind of like the same sort of mindset in terms of the approach. I mean, what you have to do is you have to provide a better option. If you're going to go and try to have any sort of talks or discussions with delegates of nations in terms of what it is that you can bring to the table, if you're trying to usurp what's already in place, you have to just come with a better option.
Yeah, Elevation is back, so we want to make sure
okay. Yeah.
He gets his last statement in before we go on to the next article.
Am I still echoing or not?
No, you're not echoing.
Okay, cool.
You had a statement that you wanted to make. Please make it.
Yeah, I just had a statement to make about Egypt and the GMO crops. Personally, I know everybody look at it as providing food to the people. I look at it totally different, bro. I'm looking at like they're getting ready to weaponize their food against Israel, straight up. Maybe put some atrazine on the food. You know what I'm saying? Because there's been studies about atrazine turning animals gay. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and take out that warrior classes over in Israel, take over the land about 50 years or so. But that's just a supposition.
Okay. Yeah, Israel's issue isn't so much as food, but it's more about water, which is what they want Lebanon for. They need to invade Lebanon to get the river that comes from southern Lebanon in order to survive the next 100 years. So that's what the major wars are going to be about. All right, let me get to this next article.
One last question, brother. I apologize. One last question about what you just said. Do you think, if I'm allowed to use the World War context, do you think that might cause that's the rabbit hole that could cause World War III, if there will be a World War III, or something on the scale of what's currently going on in Afghanistan and that particular area further east?
World War III already started with the Iraq invasion in 2003. So that part of the war has already started. The Middle East was the battleground, but for the initial onslaught, Africa will be the major battleground in the next few years, which is why you see so many U.S. military bases popping up all over the continent. I think there's about 31 now, so to speak. From the last time I checked last week, it's up to about 31. China also has strategic places itself in on the continent. So they already know that they're going to battle over Africa, and for the most part, that's where World War III will probably end. I need to get to this next article though, please. All right, this one is from CTA.int. Helping women farmers to succeed through improved access to basic infrastructure. Tonight's discussion is about infrastructure. This is just a blog, and I'm just going to read a few of the paragraphs. Significant strides have been made in terms of developing innovative ways to use smartphones in supporting farmers, both women and men, in rural communities, with applications in savings, payments, weather information, market intelligence, insurance, soil analysis, accounting, messaging, communications, and extension information. But despite the advances secured by these and other ICT tools, some basic aspects of rural farming remain arduous and create risk for millions of women. A risk of millions of women smallholder producers who comprise the majority of Africa's farming community. Specifically, most women smallholder farmers do not have access to irrigation technology. We just talked about that. With climate change phenomenon having a growing impact on weather patterns, more drought, more floods. This is having a particularly negative effect on women farmers. Drip irrigation is a solution that is relatively inexpensive and, when coupled with solar powered pumping systems, also allows for the securing of subsoil water, even if the farm is not located close to water sources. Given the rapid decline in the overall cost of solar photovoltaic technology, there are numerous ways in which access to solar energy systems, such as embedded power generation and or mini grid systems, can significantly improve the revenue that women smallholders generate from their labor, as well as pumping water, power irrigation systems, and providing the electricity that is needed to charge mobile phones. Solar electricity can help women farmers and agripreneurs to increase their revenue in a number of other ways. It can be used to dry their produce to preserve and give it longer shelf life. Run various types of equipment that can be used to process and grade their produce, adding value as a result. Power cold storage facilities to preserve their harvest for longer. In in the cases in the case of traders, electricity enables them to do business for longer, from earlier in the morning till later in the evening. Lighting also helps to improve safety, a particularly important issue for women farmers. Electricity allows rural farmers to automate their farm management, especially effective when coupled with coaching and electronic record keeping using tablets and computers. This is where blockchain comes in. Beyond solar photovoltaic, other ways that energy infrastructure can be developed to help reduce post-harvest losses and add value close to the farm gate include using bio digesters to produce biogas, particularly useful in farming communities where animal feces can be used as feedstock, and mini hydro turbines in the case of smallholder farming communities located near waterways. The development of shared processing facilities, pack houses, packaging facilities, mechanization service centers, and storage facilities are all examples of infrastructure that is extremely useful to rural smallholder. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, yeah, you dipped out for a few seconds.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Fortunately, a number of
Yeah,
small African Fortunately, a number of small African countries are starting to encourage public-private partnerships to develop more of these type of facilities. Nigeria, a staple crop processing zones; Ethiopia, agricultural industrial parks; Cote d'Ivoire, agricultural hubs; South Africa, agricultural hubs; and the Democratic Republic of Congo, agri-parks, are just some of the countries recognizing the value of encouraging the development of infrastructure oases that can provide women smallholder farmers with technology, machines, and equipment to reduce their post-harvest losses and increase their income from farming. Meanwhile, development partners such as Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the International Trade Center, and the U.S. African Development Foundation are funding initiatives aimed at designing and developing these shared infrastructure resource centers to help women smallholders become more profitable and sustainable farmers. In urban areas, there is an increasing focus on the value of using hydroponic, aquaponic, and vertical soil-less farming systems to reduce soil-related and pest risk, increase water efficiency, and produce fast-growing crops that can be harvested every 2 weeks, year-round, thereby increasing cash flow for the farmer. While these technologies are being promoted as urban farming techniques and are seen as potential way of attracting youth to agriculture, they can also be incorporated in rural areas. Many are especially suited for women. Based on what's being said, I mean, we've been talking about this and kind of beating
Dude, wait a minute, dude. This is literally just like 15 minutes ago. Okay, so let's say you have an agricultural consortium. Okay, let's actually hyper focus it. So now it's an agricultural consortium. That consortium is made up of tech firms. It's made up of import companies, processing companies. So they take like raw agricultural products and then process it here, make it something. Okay, you have all these various companies related to, or interests, I should say, related to agriculture. And then you go into a country like this, and what you do is you actually tap one of these farming collectives. This would be similar to what some coffee producers do when you look on some of these packages and it'll say like fair trade. There's like some sort of organization, right, quote unquote,
Hmm.
that partnered with some sort of farming co-op there, right, to source the coffee beans and then bring them back as an imported product that's sold at a grocery store. It's no different than that, right?
Right.
But go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to give Nicole Ali a shout out. She is in the chat. She had an excellent
Oh, peace,
interview.
Nicole. How are you doing?
Yeah, she had an excellent interview over at Inner Beauty by Nicole Michelle. She is probably the first black woman of the Black Brain Trust. She was dropping some heavy game over there about
Mm.
space and technology and health science and everything that we talk about. She sounds just like one of us. So um,
Okay.
yo,
Thank
shout
you.
out to her.
Shout out.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Great.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
she shouted out the Black Brain Trust as well. So she is official member in my opinion. But go
Excellent.
ahead. Anybody else wants to jump in?
Yeah, these are the things. It seems like the first three articles that we spoke about. I don't know if it's the third or fourth one, but the first few articles we spoke about has built up to this. Now we all know Africa is expansive, and not everybody live in these large cities such as Lagos, Accra, and Azerbaijan. There's a lot of people that live in these rural areas, and these rural areas are cut off from the main infrastructure of the large cities.
Hmm.
Now, with these rural areas, in my own opinion, what you would need to do is take the large city infrastructures and minimize it to the point where it'll fit these small rural areas. So instead of having many, or not many as an MINI, but many as an MANY, water towers or many um, what's it called transistors for your energy, you may only have one or two in these real small areas that will service the larger area of these smaller areas. That is, in my opinion, what you should do. What needs to be done, just like with the photo of the black woman wiping off the solar panel. That may be her solar panel that she uses for her land because she may have to farm a few hectares of land. Just taking the larger infrastructure and minimizing it as a start to fit these smaller rural areas is a start. Then addressing what they really need, because what they really need is really um, what's the word I'm looking for here? Is pertinent to them, is tailored to their needs and their taste. So what the article said, now you can grow fruits and vegetables and other things all year round. We already went over articles and videos in the past how I think it was in Tanzania, if I'm not mistaken, how the black farmer he texted the weather conditions to see if it was feasible
It was
or
Ghana.
Ghana, it was feasible or to the liking of him doing what he needed to do for the day. So you have small infrastructure here and there that's already in place. Now you need the hard dug in infrastructure that will allow like what cloud services did here, allow these big businesses to scale up, that will allow these farming sections in Africa to scale up. Instead of saying, well, there's no water, we have water. We have reservoirs of water. We're tapping, we're cleaning, we're catching all this water. This is the water. You know how much water you use. Okay, per our blockchain solution, we're going to pump you X amount of water. You can get it here, or even pump it straight to your farm. Oh, there's landslides because the rainwater. Well, we now have this Doppler radar system and that's connected with IoT devices that's dotted along the country, where if one, like a buoy in the ocean, when a rogue wave comes along and that buoy is knocked, now you have a forewarning. Say, well, it's a landslide that's coming into place. We need to give it a real quick to protect other farmers' lands from being destroyed. So with that type of infrastructure that I just mentioned, you can have uh, something in place that will allow these farmers to scale up in such a way that now Africa is exporting its uh, leftovers, like a better term, to outside of African countries, or even to inner African countries as trade.
Residual stock.
Yes, exactly, sir.
Hey, DE, you haven't spoken yet. You have anything you want to add to this in terms of agriculture and infrastructure? You're a Caribbean man, so
Yeah. Well, me, I'm from the Caribbean, but I've been to Africa, I've been to Brazil, Far East, you know. My far as from what I see in Africa, they need three basic things. The first thing that they need is roads. The second thing that they need um, water, and then the third thing they need is power. The power can be, you can get the power pretty easy, but you gotta convince the people that they have to do this. And producing biogas is easy. You can produce enough biogas to fulfill the needs of a village. And you build a village. If you got, I don't know, 15 people farming in this village, you have one biogas miniature power station that's producing biogas for you to cook, biogas to produce electricity to for lighting and all that. Then you need roads, not necessarily paved roads, but gravel roads. If they can lay down gravel roads that you can get your stock to market, that would help out um, a lot of African nations. You start out with the gravel on the road so that you can come into the village, pick up and take it to the big city, which needs the foods. And then the other thing they need is water. And I've seen a lot of Africans now starting to drill wells, and then what they do is put in these like I had a 1,000 gallon tank.
mm-hmm.
I put eight of them in, and then I built a 15,000 gallon on the ground. But anyway, the water, what you do in the rainy season, you put this water aside, and then it will hold you if you reuse this water, and as the rain falls during the dry season,
Mm-hmm.
or you pull it out of a storage tank. Some people are building these swim pool size tanks and cover them with plastic, which is good. So they started to do some things that are going to be helpful in the long run. But it one thing about this thing in Egypt, I am afraid of that because I think what they're trying to do is these bio firms are trying to push the idea that Israel is going to surpass everybody else. I mean, not Israel, Egypt is going to surpass everybody else. So everybody's going to start buying their bio products to plant all across Africa. And that's going to destroy Africa because they are going to pull every penny, just like they do to the local farmers here, out of the country using this crap.
You know what's interesting is that you brought up a point about the roads and them being unpaved, and that brings me to a point about micro transportation that complex design is actually very astute in. You think about these electric scooters that don't really cost a whole lot, but can actually take you a great distance. I don't know what the range is. I think complex can probably
About 20 miles.
yeah, on a single charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you think about a backpack full of packaged agriculture crops, staples that a person may have ordered from their smartphone in Africa, to a local restaurant or a village or something or another village to that effect. that micro transportation comes in place.
Mhm.
It becomes a part of the infrastructure. So that's why we wanted to have this discussion tonight, because that's sort of
And that's
sort of
all. And that's
components
all
that
IoT controlled as well.
exactly industrial IoT, IoT.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I want to make a point. Everything that we're talking about, I may say something that may sound good, but I want to point out there's no one thing fits all. What I
Not at
said
all.
was a overview, and I actually agree with DE when he was talking about what he do when he tapped the reservoir, these freshwater reservoirs that's under the ground. He really got when I said you can tap the reservoirs, he went into detail on how you can do it. So there's no one thing fits all where, oh, if I'm over in the country of Cote d'Ivoire and I say, well, okay, well, here we do it here, so I'm gonna go over to the northern Tanzania by the Serengeti and do the same thing. That's a different area. You can't do the same thing in one country and transfer it to cookie cutter it over to
Mm-mm.
other countries. It may not work. It may work to other countries that are near Cote d'Ivoire, such as Liberia and or Ghana, because they have similar landscapes. But you can't do the same thing all over Africa. There's no one thing fits all here.
No, one size does not fit all. Correct. So next one is from nanolize.com. 10 ag tech startups for agriculture in Africa. Brunch has become one of those pretentious first world affections that make us want to move to a deserted atoll in the Marshall Islands and eat coconut crabs all day. The most offensive part of this trendy ritual is the even trendier avocado toast. It's an avocado spread on bread that has been toasted. That's it. But we learned that Americans spend about $900,000 per month on this culinary masterpiece. It's a lot of money. Meanwhile, people living in that faraway place called Africa would be happy just to have the toast. About 27% of the population in Africa, a continent with 54 countries, is considered severely food insecure. According to the World Hunger Education Service, about 20% of the continent's 1.2 billion undernourished, yet Africa has 60% of the world's non-cultivated arable lands. We just talked about that, which begs the question: why aren't its farmers growing more avocados?
They call it food insecure.
Um,
It said
like,
severely food insecure. I didn't know that was a term.
mhm. One problem is that over a third of Africa's countries are run by dictators, and corruption doesn't care about making sure everyone gets properly fed. Another problem is that Africa's agriculture is subsistence farming, which isn't very efficient. For example, four African countries, Sudan, Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia, are among the 15 nations with the largest cow populations in the world, but only account for 4% of the total milk production. That that has forced the continent to import a reported $25 billion in food per year, or about the equivalent of what Brooklyn hipsters spend annually on brunch. Who wrote this article? There is hope, however, thanks to the growing number of African ag tech startups that are trying to help the continent tip the scales in favor of feeding its own population, if not exporting extra products for profit. Ag Funder News put together this nifty market map of 99 startups that are changing the face of agriculture in Africa. We talked about this whole infrastructure piece, and agriculture is a part of that infrastructure piece. But for those of you in the chat who are following along, you can actually click on this and see it for yourself if you can't see the screen here. But there is an explosion of startups coming out of Africa that is competing for all this infrastructure. So all these opportunities that lead to infrastructure development. So I just want to go over just a couple. Growing farmers' knowledge, perhaps not so African as globally oriented. London startup WeFarm, founded in 2015, picked up $6.6 million to develop artificial intelligence powered learning and knowledge sharing platform that is used by more than 660,000 small-scale farmers across the world, including East Africa countries, Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda. Geospatial intelligence for farmers, aerobotics, founded in Cape Town, South Africa in 2014 with $2.7 million in total funding. Aerobotics enables precise pest and disease detection for orchids in vineyards using drones and satellite imagery to monitor tree crops. That's really
Dude,
dope.
we've been talking about that for I don't know how long.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Again, Future Pump. In addition to war, poverty, and starvation, you might be surprised to learn that Africa has a serious problems with access to water. We talked about that earlier. So it could use some innovative water technologies. It does, however, have plenty of sunlight. The Kenya ag tech company Future Pump, founded in 2011, used an undisclosed seed funding round to invest in solar power. Farmers make a one-off investment to buy a surface pump that can suck up to 1 liter per second of shallow water to irrigate surrounding crops. The pump is made of three parts: photovoltaic panels that convert sunlight into electricity and drive the DC motor, a unit coupled to a flywheel that drives the pump, and a reciprocating piston pump. Drone scan. Once you have picked the harvest with delicate agricultural robots or robotics, you should store it somewhere safe and be able to locate it and count it fast. Funded in 2014 in Durban, South Africa, DroneScan is a fast-paced inventory counting system for warehouses. It basically has two types of inventory counters:
Wow.
DroneScan Hadada and DroneScan Buffalo. Named after a local bird, Hadida can be used either as a supplemental drone to an existing warehouse system or as complete solution, which includes a flying drone and the accompanying software and file integrations.
Now, Mike, you know what's interesting about that is that when we talk about potential infrastructure projects. Now, something to consider is that look, if you're going into these countries, look, you partner with companies like this that already exist.
Hmm.
Because I mean, this is some hardcore tech right there.
Hmm. Hmm. I know you have anything you want to add to that?
No, nothing else to add.
Wilsonia? DE.
Nah, I'm hold off on that one.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before, that Africa is moving at a pace that is far exceeding that of what African Americans are doing. 99 tech startups over there, just from this article alone, they only focus on a couple.
Yeah,
they're moving in ways that could potentially outpace people in the West, or Black people in the West. So it's important that we read these articles so that we get a better understanding as to what's happening over there. Even if you're not on the ground, if we don't start exporting our intellectual capacity and our human capital to get involved in terms of the investment in Africa is the infrastructure alone. The infrastructure is the investment. People are
and
going to get left
obviously the
behind.
technology's there.
Some pieces of technology is there, right? So
Well, I'm saying that even that's kind of, we talk about food deserts here in the hood, right? Okay, and this is a first world country, and we're talking about infrastructure projects in a third world, and what can largely be viewed as certain countries third world status, right? But largely African continent, we're talking about development, and it's kind of like we have drone-based pesticide control, pest control, inventory control, all this type of stuff. So, I mean, these are promising things here.
Mhm. All right, this next one is from curb.com. Shipping container farms expand into grocery stores around the country. Container farming startup Square Roots partnered with a major distributor to bring locally grown food to cities nationwide. A few years back, Square Roots set up shop in a parking lot in Brooklyn's Bed-Stuy neighborhood. The urban farming startup, founded by Kimball Musk and Tobias Peggs, built a compact hydroponic farming system inside tricked out shipping containers designed by or Designs Thomas Cospo. Now, Square Roots is expanding operations. The startup just announced that it's partnering with Gordon Food Services, a distribution company that works with retailers across the country. The plan is to build Roots facilities and Square Roots facilities on or near GFS's distribution or retail locations in order to shorten the amount of time it takes to go from hydroponic pod to store shelves. Fast, Com- Fast Company reports that each new Square Roots location will get somewhere around 10 shipping containers, though that number could grow in the future. We'll start putting we'll start with putting 10 containers down in the market, and the demand for locally grown produce increases. We can very quickly expand our footprint by adding more molecules or more modules, Pegs told Fast Company, with each container generating around 50,000 pounds of produce each year. That's a major upgrade for locally grown food. So this is I think we covered this maybe some months ago, maybe sometime last year. But this is definitely a dope idea. I think that black people have a lot of real estate in a lot of black communities, especially with all these basketball courts that are not being used. But the local government seems to spend so much money on it. You have a lot of vacant lots that can actually be used for this. 10 shipping containers could actually produce that much food. That's very profitable and it's very ingenious. Now, the way how I'm looking at this is that most black communities live by some form of expressway or highway system.
Hmm.
Underneath those overpasses and so on and so forth is real estate that is not being used. You need to apply for a permit to get access to to
Those
those
spaces.
those spaces under those expressways and overpasses for agricultural production by using shipping containers, um, and actually not have to pay any taxes on it at all. Anti Gravity has talked about stipends from the government
Hmm.
that can be applied for with this.
Yeah,
Now,
and I was gonna say also, man, I really wish Young Grizzly was on this hangout at the moment here to talk about this. Shout outs to him because he has his own shipping container project underway where he's developing his own uh, enclosed grow system, completely automated.
Hmm.
So I wish he was here to really kind of give his input on this as well. But this is a viable method of food production nonetheless.
now I will say this, give a little pushback on this. Now, I do agree that a lot of, especially in Chicago, judging from Chicago, we do have a lot of vacant lots that are around black areas in Chicago that, with a number of these, can change food deserts to being very competitive to the likes of a Mariano's or a Whole Foods. Very competitive. That's how much space that we have to install these things. Now,
Hmm.
my pushback is this: instead of getting many of these and putting them together and building a grocery store type deal, I would I would say this is more of a stopgap in terms of building up your clientele, purchasing these, building up your clientele, and opening up more of a brick and mortar grocery store slash farmers market type of deal. Because I know these shipping containers are made out of metal, and I don't know how if this is how your grocery store is made and stacked up with these shipping containers. Yes, they are growing food for you, which I am good with. I agree with, but also staying with that model instead of expanding to a more of a brick and mortar slash farmers market build. That's my only pushback.
Well, I was gonna say maybe if you do this with something like an Amazon Go type of setup,
You can do
where
that too, but what I'm saying is just staying with these shipping container shipping grow containers as just being the setup and nothing else, and not expanding out and owning and having your own co-op in terms of grocery stores, actual grocery stores where people can go in, shop around, and purchase other things
oh,
other
okay,
than groceries. And
I
being,
would.
like I said, in Chicago, we have a lot of vacant land where to the
Hmm.
point where if we have
Yep.
this and then expand up to, like I previously mentioned twice, the brick and mortar grocery store slash farmers markets, we can actually literally put out the likes of Mariano's and Whole Foods and
Well, I was gonna say if you're
any other
gonna do
grocery stores
that,
out of business.
yeah. Well, if you do that, then one thing you might want to avoid is maybe hemorrhaging yourself with like large lease obligations vis-a-vis like a like a large supermarket type of. I know like what Treasure Island is no longer, right? Didn't they close Treasure Island down in Chicago?
I don't know where Treasure Island at.
Okay, there was one over in Hyde Park, I recall.
Oh no, I don't go to High Park too often.
Yeah, I know that, but I know they shut down Treasure Island, so that like that supermarket location is available, right? But what if you pair this with something like an app-based order system, right, where you have people who just deliver the food to the customers, right? Because now you're eliminating, you know, real estate costs, and you're leveraging more of your overhead or you're leveraging more of the ROI that comes on the produce because you don't have real estate obligations. I mean, that's just an idea that I'm throwing out there as well, because if you have these streamlined sort of self-contained grow environments, I mean, that in and of itself is a profitable mechanism. So if you can hold on to as much as that as possible, but expand out, maybe just having more of those, but having like a delivery mechanism, and then serving like farmers markets and other sales venues without having the real estate obligation. I think that's like kind of like the formula.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said instead of purchasing these and then
Right,
being the end all be all, expand out. I'm not saying expand out and get rid of this.
right,
No,
right, 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 right.
add to and build that up. That's what I'm saying.
All right, next one is from Forbes.com. Bill Gates, if Africa can be electrified, the whole world will benefit too. When Microsoft founder Bill Gates spoke recently at the African Union's annual summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, he underscored two of the things about which he is most passionate: the African people and clean energy, or more precisely, the need to bring electricity to a growing population in a climate friendly way. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation spends half of its budget, or $2 billion a year, on the continent of Africa. The money is going to improve medical care and agribusinesses or agribusiness, both of which are essential to enhance living standards. But it is also trying to electrify the continent, one that has 500,000 people with no access to power, which is the basic building block for prosperity. And now is the time. By 2050, Africa is expected to grow from 1.1 billion to 2 billion people. These folks need medicine, food, and electric power. According to the according to the International Energy Agency, sub-Saharan Africa will require $400 billion by 2035 to modernize its energy foundation. The World Bank Group will invest $200 billion globally to 20, 2025 to help get to a low carbon future. We need to do a much better job of informing people about the challenges, says Bill Gates in his year-end 2018 blog. But I worry that wealthy countries are turning inward, and they'll decide these efforts are worth the cost, he adds, referring to the investments in healthcare and infrastructure. We've been talking about infrastructure all night. It's game on, though, for the Gates Foundation and for the United Nations too, which has launched the Sustainable Energy for All that has a lofty goal of providing universal energy access by 2030. It also aims to double the use of both energy and energy efficiency and renewable energy during the same time period. We've been talking about infrastructure all night. Any of you guys have anything you want to add to this?
No, I mean, I think it pretty much supports what the course of the discussion has been thus far. You know, and I think the leadoff article spoke to you know, the application of electricity. Um, so this is Bill Gates and Forbes is more of like more of a mainstream confirmation of what we're discussing.
For me, I think the Africans can um, work on producing what they need, but for the people outside of Africa, like Bill Gates or other Americans who want to rush in and invest in Africa, they want the African to say, well, we come in and lay down an electric grid, and then we'll take every penny we can out of the land. And that's what my belief is. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's my belief. But from even for what I can do for myself, like I said, I can produce. If I was 30 kilometers from the city, I can produce my be self-sufficient electricity. My biggest drawback, if I was a farmer, would be water, depending on where I'm in Africa.
Now, to respond with what Dee just said, that's fine to have that type of, uh, I'll say cringe, because that's a healthy cringe. That's a I'm losing my words tonight. I apologize, people, but that is a defensive stance. It's fine to have that, but it's important for us to understand you can have the defensive stand, but also try to extract as much technical know-how of people that are trying to come in to quote unquote help Africa. Because if they come in and help Africa all by themselves, then they will be the same people you will have to call on repeatedly over and over again to fix your roads, bridges, electrical infrastructure, water infrastructure, and any other infrastructure that your native people need in order to survive and scale up. So I would say yes, it's healthy to have that defensive stance, but with a know-how that you only have permanent interests and limited friends, and extract all know-how on how to build these modern bridges yourself, these modern roads yourself, having just as much as China have or produce more IT people than America produce lawyers, produce people that are in autonomous field, blockchain, IoT, with this fourth industrial revolution. So have an army of those people on hand in order to take Africa from where it is currently, where it is now, to the next level, and have people around the world look at Africa as a goal in which they need to scale up to or to get to.
No,
So
I
that's
agree,
healthy.
Lionel. I was gonna say, Grant, I mean, I agree. It's like you can take whatever implementation of technologies that come, from other countries, and you springboard off of it. You implement it because it serves an immediate need, an immediate like function, right?
And
However,
I'll go ahead.
well, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I disagree with Star in the chat. He said that these advances in Africa are being done out of necessity, though, and I disagree that yes, you can still do things out of necessity, but that's also to say if there was no necessity, I know I'm butchering that word, then these advances would not be done. These advances need to be done because Africa need to become in a better place and a more advanced place than we all know black people and African people. I use those words interchangeably. No, Africa can be and need to be. So I
What
disagree with that person saying that it's done out of necessity.
what necessity? Well, the other thing too is you got to realize, man, is that you have other look. you know, uh, migration, migration patterns never stop, never change. So there's always going to be people. There's an influx of people coming and going, coming and going. So you have an influx of people also that are interested in coming into the continent of Africa, and they will desire to have things reflective of the place that they just came from. So they're going to desire to have more infrastructure. So now you're starting to see now there's an impetus to have this rolled out, right? So sometimes you really can't look at things, from a somewhat myopic standpoint. You have to look at the fact that things evolve, the world evolves. You know what I mean? Either you're going to evolve with it, or things are going to evolve without you.
Well, complexity, you're right in one, yes, but technology is a thing that it goes somewhat in a circle. Like
Mm-hmm.
I might develop a piece of equipment, and then it goes to you, and you will add something that you think is lacking, and then somebody else will take that same piece of equipment that you just modified, and they'll modify it, and then when it comes back to me, the modification, I might take a little adjustment to it, and it fits. So the technology goes around in a circle. And the
Yeah.
other thing is that, say, I'm from the Caribbean. I came to America, and I see that they're using something here that, oh, I say, wow, this thing would be great for me. So I take it home with me. So it's not only going around in a circle, but it also bubbles up from, somewhat from the bottom, I would say, because I'm coming from a place where it doesn't exist, and
Mhm.
I'm kind of at the bottom. So now when I take it back home and I either use it or make something that's better than it, then I'm gonna make it like a step, and then you have to make the other step, and that's what's going to happen in Africa. And it takes about a generation if you go like that, up and down and around normally. But if you force it, it will take. If you force it, like what China is doing now, China's moved into Africa, Belt and Road,
Mhm.
infrastructure, everything. So
Mhm.
by the next generation, all that should be in place. But
Yes.
normally, the my generation would have something, and then the next generation would build on it, and then the third generation would
Right.
fill it out.
Right.
There were tools in Africa, during with the commissions where other groups from other nations actually came and bought those tools and brought them back to their nations before Africa was carved up to the jigsaw puzzle that it is now. So it's not uncommon that other groups of people will leverage technology that's already existing in somewhere else to and bring it back to their place of stay. So I want to get to this next article. All right, this one is from New China TV. China from above, floating solar power plant in East China. We talked about this maybe a couple of weeks ago. Um, Solar using lakes and other brown and warm water ports for solar panel development or renewable energy development. Sorry.
Hmm.
Yeah, we did talk about this a couple of weeks ago, and we one of the things that we were concerned about is how that's a great idea because excuse me, I want to say that's a great idea because now you can expand your solar and renewable energy catch
Yep.
and putting solar panels on top of water. But what we said was the sunlight that's it's blocking from getting to the water, which means the plankton and other small meals that fish eat and the chain of command in terms of the fish chain of command, big eat small, then that might disrupt. And what we said that, and by the way, the video is about 28 seconds long, and at the end they showed a solar array, in the image of a dolphin. Then
Hmm.
that is what I love because not only are you installing something that is needed, but you're tailoring it to the landscape and to the culture of the people for it to blend in and don't look like a big eyesore. That I
Well,
love. That I am in. I like. Now, what I was trying to get at is you can add a device where it will trail the solar panels across the water, where it can catch as much sunlight as possible. You know, you may have shadows or areas where, no much sun is shining, so it's just following the sun, so it's moving around, not just in one stationary place. That's what I say. But to have solar panels on the surface of the water, it's a pretty ingenious idea, in my opinion.
I mean, if it's done with, like, if it was on like a I mean, like, because I know you were talking about, like, and I can see where you were saying, like, based on that that infograph, where you had a lot of panels that are kind of like covering the water, right? So it's kind of blocking sunlight that comes down into the water, so that you'll have pockets of water where the temperature is cooler, might kind of change some of the characteristics of the environment. You do impact the environment doing that, so there is an environmental impact. But I like the idea, though, of saying maybe having like a mechanism that actually moves and shifts solar panels around, right? So that it's not stationary in one place, just affecting the environment, but it becomes it moves kind of, because what you're saying is it kind of geotracks, right, and stays out of like shaded areas so that it collects the most sunlight as possible.
Right,
Right.
maximize.
Right. So it's not going to be stationary in one place where that general area, because what if that's over like a deep pocketed area where there's like larger fish, or yeah, there, so the environmental concerns, I see what you're saying, Lionel. It's like if it was something that's movable, or you can kind of tailor it right to the landscape so that it minimally impacts. It's going to have an impact, but if you can minimally do it and collect energy, then I think the energy collection may offset the minimal environmental impact.
Mm.
Hmm. All right, so next one is from cleantechnica.com. Financing your EV charging network, cost, revenues, and business models. Regardless of how many EVs are currently registered in your city, many more are coming, and soon you should get ready. For you, this may mean investing in your own infrastructure. We've been talking about that. Developing a plan or passing laws or regulations to encourage the private marketplace. There is an ongoing debate as to whether to invest in infrastructure before the mass onset of EVs or to wait until they have already become far more common. The so called chicken and egg dilemma in our industry. Even if it's just a single charging station, we encourage you to start now to gain our own experience with EV charging and the habits of your local drivers. Whether for public or private entity, there are a number of proven ways to fund EV charging infrastructure and then generate revenue from it. While we are not suggesting any specific approaches here, we think it's important for you to have a clear understanding of the real costs and key cost drivers of these activities and sustainable business models. The cost includes fixed costs, hardware and installation costs, capital costs, capacity charges, variable costs, energy costs, energy and power, service, maintenance, operations, billing, invoicing. Revenue comes from a mixture of price per charge, kilowatt an hour, minute or hour of charging, and or minute hour of parking. Utilization, how much the charge point is used. Other uses of charging station or area, such as marketing or on a charger and concession sold. Charging infrastructure costs, hardware installation. First, an appropriate site needs to be found and selected, and the proper approvals and contracts drawn up for its use. Then, the appropriate construction work needs to be performed to extend or upgrade the electricity grid connection and establish the point where the charger will connect to the grid. When it is freestanding, a concrete foundation needs to be poured for the charger to stand on. or it needs to be attached to the wall or another object. Appropriate parking next to the charging point needs to be provided, revealed, and marked. For outdoor charging, for outdoor chargers, a covered canopy is worth considering. When it comes to the charger itself, there are two main types of chargers for use used for public charging: Type 2 AC chargers and fast DC chargers. This is a very high level layman's
Yeah, it's kind of
breakdown.
a technical article. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
if for those of you who want to actually read it, I think you should read it if you're interested in getting involved in infrastructure development, not just here in this country, but abroad as well, because it's actually a template for you to refer back to.
Can I
Yeah.
ask a question to you all?
Yeah.
Per this article, can I? I'm gonna be funny. Fair warning. Bring back like an Amoco EV charging station.
Amico EV charging station.
So like a gas station, but gas station that's changed to represent the new advancements in cars. So instead of those 4
Oh
or 6
God.
gas stations, you have, when
You
you
mean
park,
gas pumps?
yeah, but gas pumps. When I say gas station, yeah, gas pumps. When you park your car diagonally,
hmm
park your car diagonally and have like like a row of those, have like 20 of those, and it's like a charging station, but like,
They already have that.
yeah. So I'm trying to figure out a way to change the gas stations because they already have the real estate, but just change
Yeah.
them in a way.
I really hate when I love these conversations, but I hate when we have them live because then we throw out business ideas and shit, right?
Hmm.
But
I'm pretty sure somebody thought about that already.
no,
That's not surprising.
well,
They
no. Because look, I'm thinking, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna take what you're talking about, Lionel, but because it takes a little bit longer to charge a car than to gas it up, what if the ideal scenario is kind of like a rest stop
So
restaurant
what you saying,
kind
like a
of
truck stop type of situation, but not in not on a
yeah,
highway, in the neighborhood?
it's not like a traditional gas station, right? It's
Yeah,
sort of like this new kind of thing
yeah, like
where, like,
a
okay,
neighborhood truck stop, like type of deal, but not with trucks
yeah,
charging up EV
but it's
cars.
more
The problem,
classy because you're gonna be pulling up in a Tesla, right?
yeah,
The
You
problem.
know, go ahead, Mike.
I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, go ahead.
the only problem with that is the advancement of the charging coupling devices. The charging stations are advancing every 9 months. We just
They
saw that
are, yeah.
Volkswagen and or BMW in Europe and Bosch all teamed up for this 900 volt charging station, which is supposed to charge your vehicle in 7 minutes or something like that.
I mean, so that's what I mean. It's
The typical charge station now is only 400 volts for Tesla supercharger. So
right.
that's double.
Right. And so that's what I mean. It's kind of like, okay, you're dealing with like 7 minute up to maybe 20 to 30 minute full capacity charge, right? Wait times. So maybe the kind of establishment that you'll create is not maybe kind of like a quicken, like a AM. Well, out here in California, we have AMPMs, or they have like Circle K's in other places, stuff like that. But maybe that's not like the setup, but maybe it's kind of more something where the wait time is like a little bit longer or something. So you could have that. I don't know. I was just kind of giving a spin on what Lionel was talking about. But then again, like you said, you also have these new charging standards that are being, all these different automotive companies are going to start coming out with their own sort of, charging platform that says, hey, man, we could, dump a full charge in 3 minutes. And then you got this one saying, man, look, we can do this in 2 minutes. And next thing you're going to have one that's going to be like, look, in the time of a normal fill up, will fill up your battery, so who's to say? Maybe that model that I just threw out would be even obsolete in a certain amount of time, because we're going to get to the point where a fill up or a charge will be the equivalent to a fill up. Then the convenience store model, like, referencing back to what Lionel was talking about, then comes into play.
yeah, because
You
to
know,
fill
you
your
guys,
car up. Oh, go ahead, DE.
you guys I don't know if you guys know that in China, there's no charging well, not no charging station, but you drive up, your battery gets popped out, and a new one popped in, and you drive off.
Well, one of the things that the article points out is that it have an overhead canopy. Now, I've seen this here locally. There's several institutions that have redeveloped their parking lots to have these big overhead canopies that are probably about the size of a football field or half of a football field, I should say. To have these solar panels on there, and there's charging stations at the bottom of it. So your typical parking lots are now being a part of the the public infrastructure where there's investments into your parking lots now. So just pulling up and parking your car and walking away, it's not going to be the same anymore. You're seeing a lot of parking lots throw up solar panels and wind turbines and stuff like that all across a parking lot to make up for the infrastructure of a charging station. No, we can get super chat. We have super chats enabled, complex, but we just don't do that here.
No, I was joking, dude.
Okay. But yeah, that's the move, man. I really like that article. I think that people should actually bookmark that for themselves because you're gonna have to return back to that in the next few months, if not a year from now, and use that as a template because infrastructure is the focus of tonight's discussion, and it's part of the reason why we do what we do here.
Yeah, I was going to say EV charging is already without a significant number of electrical vehicles on the street yet. Already, you're approaching the time it takes to fill up your gas tank, depending on the method in which you pay to charge it up. Because if you have a BP gas card or a Shell gas card, you get out your car, swipe your card, uh, put in whatever you need to put in, and then sit there and wait for the gas to pump, or which is that's the quickest version. Or if you go in, wait in the line and say, yeah, 10 on pump 2 or 20 on pump 3, and go out and then pump your gas, all that takes time. So EV charging already without a significant number of electrical vehicles on the street is already approaching the time it takes to fill up your gas via gas. Fill up your tank via gas, I mean.
Yeah, it won't be the traditional way of going to a gas station though, because you're not going to go up to a teller and or a cashier or something like that named Habib. That's not going to happen anymore. You're going to have to. It's going to be membership required. So you're not getting on into that property and charging anything unless you already unless you already a member. And the app, I think for Tesla, unlocks that supercharger for them, if I remember correctly. So anybody who in the charge models can actually fit multiple vehicles, whether it's the Chevy Bolt or the Bolt or another Honda EV or Toyota EV, the BMW i3 and the i8. Those type of vehicles are from different brands and different models, but they need to be able to fit within that business model as well. So it's not like Tesla where they have one app for their brand and their product. Where you have to cater to multiple vehicles. So it's going to have to be a membership only sort of deal that allows for certain people to pull up. Because if you just allow anybody to pull up in there and try to charge or something to that effect, what's going to happen is there's going to be some vandalism, and we already see that with Tesla superchargers now. Where you have these pickup trucks that are lifted. They're occupying the spaces. They're cutting the charging cables. They're vandalizing it because.
What are they calling those guys?
Assholes. Now, I what I was getting at was
okay.
It with the whole range anxiety. People say, "Well, what if I can't charge it?" Well, charging your car is approaching the time it takes to fill your gas tank up, and on top of that, you're able to charge it at home. So that whole range anxiety is starting to become lesser and lesser because with the speed and the infrastructure and your ability to charge your car at home, will make it more, I don't want to say feasible, but make it more appealing to own an electric vehicle because there's more ways for you to charge and not run out of charge opposed to a car. You just have to go to a designated area and just fill your gas tank up.
Hmm. Every mall I've been to the last year or so, I've all had charging points designated in those areas. Um, Multiple car garages and things of that nature, malls, um, Walmarts, Targets. They all have some form of charging station infrastructure put in place. What happens here is there's a disconnect between the people you're trying to service, which is your urban environment, which makes up a large constituency of black and brown people, right? Black people who can't afford these vehicles, and the ones who can afford it, who have the range anxiety, are going to be the ones that are going to drive your business model. So there's a whole lot of social studies that needs to be taken into consideration for that. So, like the article was pointing out, that you need to be working on a way to drive public policy to actually get this available into your area to make it work to your advantage. I just want to get to this next article. All right, this next one is from electric.co. EGEB, solar bills in 3 states, solar carports in Massachusetts, and more, which is something I just talked about. Today in EGEB, 3 state legislatures went forward with solar bills that last week, which that went with solar bills last week, which would be sure to have varying effects. HVAC company Train installed 5 solar carports in Massachusetts schools, and Texas petrochemical fire burns on. Electric Green Energy Brief, a daily technical, financial, and political review analysis of important green energy news. 3 states recently made changes to their solar policies with major differences. First up, Maine, the state quickly passed LD 91, an act to eliminate gross metering through the Senate and House, where it should be signed by Governor Janet Mills. The bill is essentially designed to bring back the state's previous net metering policy, rather than the oft-criticized gross metering policy enacted by former Governor Paul LePage. A commission already exempted large and medium-scale business projects in Maine from LePage's policy last year, and this will do the same for residential and small-scale projects. It's a return to form that should give solar power a boost in the state. Arkansas passed a Republican sponsored renewable energy bill that opens up the state's solar policy. It allows third party ownership of solar panels. It also increases the size cap of projects from 300 kilowatts to 1 megawatt. While the bill offers easier access to solar, it also seems to leave open the ability to charge net metering, change net metering policy in the state if it is in the public's interest. Kentucky's bill aims to change the state's definition of net metering entirely, allowing the compensation rate to be set by state regulators. Louisville Public Media's 89.3 WFPL News talked to some solar advocates who were predictably upset with the bill as it made its way to the governor. Train is primarily known as an HVAC company, but is branching out into solar installations. And a school district in Massachusetts is benefiting. The solar projects were funded via lease and won't forward any costs onto taxpayers, according to Solar Builder. 5 sites within the Dighton Rehoboth Regional District contain 12 solar carports for a total of 1.2 megawatts. The district will receive energy, and Solar Log will provide monitoring in a neat uh, in a neat touch that will help students better understand renewable energy and energy conservation. Anyways, I don't want to go too much into this because I really wanted to focus on the carports portion of it because I think it's interesting that you can get a megawatt of power out of carports. If that makes any sense to anybody who's listening to this. Any of you guys have anything you want to add to this?
Nothing for me.
Okay. So this is part of the infrastructure development that we've been talking about all night. All right, this one is from cleantechnica.com. Gap Energy introduces integrated solar PV roof system. Standard Industries, the largest roofing company in the world, has launched a portfolio company known as JAF Energy that will allow traditional roofing contractors to offer its customers a solar roof option, whether they are building a new home or replacing the roof in their existing home. Martin DeBono, president of the new division, tells Fast Company the scale of the roofing industry is an order of magnitude greater than the solar industry. GAF Energy can now give customers a simple option: a roof or a solar roof. He says about 5 million homes get new roofs every year. But only 300,000 add solar panels as part of the project. That leaves enormous opportunity for the new company like GAF Energy. It will sell PV panels that are engineered to install like skylights. They are mounted at the same time as the regular shingles, giving a seamless look to the finish and project, keeping installation costs low. The process also avoids the risk of leaks that are possible if the solar panels are attached to a roof on separate racks. I think that's a pretty interesting idea.
Yeah, instead of having the normal look of what solar panels are, when you say to someone you're going to get solar panels put on your roof, they already have an image of what that's going to look like. But as time goes on, and how we talked about in past weeks, how the cost of solar panels are declining and the way they are made is differently. No longer do you have those racks, those thick racks that poke out on your roof. Now you have something that can be integrated into the aesthetic look of your house. And I think when that occurs more, and when people know about that more and more people will opt to go to solar panels on their roof
Mhm.
or on their house in some type of capacity.
All right, let me get to this next one. All right, this next one is from Electric.co. Midwest win 4 gigawatts DC transmission line. BP going solar, living near turbines. Missouri regulators approved the Grain Belt Express transmission line on Wednesday, ending years of frustration for developers and proponents. The transmission line will bring 4,000 megawatts of wind power from Kansas through Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, and then farther east into the grid via direct current. Missouri had long blocked the progress of the Grain Belt Express, while regulators attempted to determine if it was in the public interest. Developers now have the right to use eminent domain to construct the line, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch reports. Despite clearing the large hurdle, the line isn't quite ready to go. A spokesperson from developer in Invenergy, sorry, developer from Invenergy said it's seeking approval on acquisition of the project, which was agreed upon last year. The Post Dispatch notes that last year, Illinois rescinded its approval on the technicality that Clean Line did not have a physical presence in the state and therefore could not qualify as a utility. New developer Invenergy, however, is based in Chicago. A similar project is underway from Iowa east through Illinois, involving wind and solar, as noted in a prior EGEB. Oil giant BP is looking to buy solar power in the U.S. BP would buy power from a developer it partially owns, LightSource BP. A contract would be signed within 6 months, LightSource BP told Bloomberg. LightSource BP Chief Chemical Officer Catherine Rizara said BP would make the move for financial reasons. While oil companies are getting more involved in clean energy as its prices drop, it's unclear just how much solar power BP would be purchasing in this instance. This is interesting because they mentioned Chicago. You know anything about this, Lionel?
No, no, I don't. I need to look into this.
Okay. Let me get to this last article. All right, this one is from the scientificamerican.com. How co-ops are bringing solar power to rural America. Declining solar cars have helped spur a move away from coal. It's a pretty neat picture right there. In 2014, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association studied what some of its members saw as a touchy subject: local electricity powered by the sun. The NRECA, based in Arlington, Virginia, is the trade association for 900 local rural electric co-ops that came to life in 1942, when its members were dependent on coal. Many derived 70% or more of their power from coal, while just 1% of the co-ops had gone beyond experimenting with solar as of late 2013, according to the survey at the time. Only 20% of these 42 million members seem interested in having more solar power. But things began to change quickly. By 2015, as Donald Trump was launching his political ambitions with a promise to revive the U.S. coal industry, multiple co-ops were building large solar arrays and finding innovative ways to get communities to plug into them. This year, the solar footprint of the U.S. co-ops will have grown to 10 times as large in 4 years, a journey from NRECA's described in a recent report titled The Solar Revolution in Rural America. It began as a tough slog. Polls showed that co-op members viewed solar as exotic, difficult to manage, and above all, too expensive on a community-wide scale. As one member of a co-op focus group assisted, signing up can't result in a net loss to my wallet. The coal dependency started during the Great Depression and was reinforced in the 1980s when the co-ops built a system using co-op wholesalers. These are centrally located coal-fired power plants with long-distance transmission lines that spread electricity over 56% of the nation's landmass. The system is financed in part by very long-term power contracts that limit coal local coal power production to 5% or less. But these contracts began to grate on local co-ops. Some of them were inviting outside companies to help them develop local renewable energy, particularly solar. One co-op based in Taos, New Mexico, waged a year-long struggle with its wholesale co-op supplier, Tri-State Generation and Transmission Association Incorporated, Westminster, Colorado, to break its contract and replace it with a commercial power provider and community-wide solar program. Anyway, I don't want to read too much into this. It's just a point that they are working on ways to deliver solar as a grid technology to these rural areas.
And that's the thing we talked about in Africa in these rural areas. Solar as a grid technology. You can set up this infrastructure and this technology, dispense it to whoever need it whenever they need it, instead of, especially when power goes out, your main power supply goes out, as you will still be on that when the transition starts, when that power source goes out, then you have these backup batteries and a system where they'll divert power to you when you need it. So now you're looking at a situation where if the lightning take out your area, I forgot the name of these things, transistor, that goes out. Right, that goes out. You wait a couple minutes and hopefully one at the most, and all of a sudden your lights pop back on. Don't miss a beat.
What if you even had like even smaller type co-op setups where you have like peer-to-peer energy sharing, right? So like I have a Powerwall system and you have a Powerwall system, like I can, like, just to say for whatever reason, man, you may have just had some sort of downtime or something happened or whatever, and your system gives back up but your batteries are low, but I can shoot you like a packet of energy or something like that.
That'll be fine also.
All right, let me get to this last one here. Ultimate 5-year plan, 24-hour solar storage power plants and design pipeline now. When you're the music maker, you have to do things no one has done before. It's your job. The CEO of 8-Minute Energy, Tom Bujenabach, took the time recently to answer questions from PV Magazine, of course, to talk about aliens. Let me go through these questions. Will we see solar storage with long-term storage on site? The answer is yes. The question is when. But in the next 5 years, they are in our pipeline right now. We're designing them. Will these plants have heavily oversized DC to AC? Yes, they will have heavily oversized ratios. With that, we can all go home, put our feet up, and drink that scotch. Think about redoing our resumes and get back to our work on our energy transition. As an aside, there are plenty of other things these ways. Anyways, their ability to create facilities for these batteries. There's a lot of battery technology that's coming out of all this development that is being, designed in a way to harvest all this energy as a source that could be charged that could be charged back to residents, and actually creating your own grid for that matter. I think that's really important for a 5-year plan, to have a battery capacity that can actually hold 24 hours of storage.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I mean, even kind of speaking to what I was talking with Lionel just a few minutes ago. I mean, imagine a scenario where you have a co-op that kind of so the model for the co-op is like the co-op itself is one gigantic battery, and its capacity is made up of all of these homes that have battery systems, right, that contribute to the energy collection of this co-op, right? So you are kind of having your own sort of power utility in that regard. Solar plus battery storage technology or power wall technology allows you to do just that. I like the idea of the future applications of it, when applying a blockchain to it. But that right there is a way um, that you can kind of hedge against energy firms and in all actuality kind of create your own. And there's like tutorials on YouTube where dudes teach you how to make your own power walls. So it's not really even that hard to do.
Yeah, no comments from me. I wanted to hear what Complex had to say about this one.
No, it's open mic right now. I mean, we could bring up anything at this point. I definitely think that people should actually refer back to that article that had the template about the infrastructure, EV infrastructure
Mhm.
investment. That's exactly what we've been talking about here. Um, Instead, we're talking about it on a continent level as well. The ability to create um, small micro pieces of infrastructure. When we talk about micro pieces of infrastructure, we're talking about things from um, solar mini grids, um, things that can provide power in a small section, um, roughly 50 by 50 feet, if not more, or roughly the size of that area. Solar panels, all types of battery storage that could actually provide energy to an entire village of people, and
Mm-hmm.
actually give those people the ability to actually do business so that they can actually harvest their crops and things, so on and so forth. That can actually bring back revenue. Um, that's where the mindset is right now. Think about
And
micro transportation as infrastructure as well.
I mean, even things as benign as like a bus bench, right? I've seen these trick like bus benches that actually double as charging stations, right? So then the bottom of the bus, like
Started up here.
yeah, we had like a bus stop and you're sitting at a bench, right? But beneath it is a battery pack, and then there's a solar panel. There's a pole with a solar panel right there, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then on the side of it, there's like a regular AC plug outlet like you have in your home, and then there's like a bunch of like USB. There's a few of those, and there's like a bunch of um, USB ports. There might even be like some car cigarette lighter DC plug ports, and these are on things like bus benches and stuff, right? So even something as benign as like a bus bench can actually serve as like a power supply.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even putting these types of technologies and these things into some of like the most benign settings, right? That's what kind of spreads this all out. So it's not even necessarily about like um each home having to have the latest and the greatest this and that, but it's like the homes are upgraded, or community living environments are upgraded to accommodate, you know at the very minimum, a base level power infrastructure. But then on top of that, you're also incorporating it into the kind of like the more mundane aspects of life, so that it becomes a normal thing. So like, somebody just goes and they're sitting at the bus stop and they're waiting for one of these buses, but it's like, oh, in the meantime, let me just charge my phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very convenient thing to have. And these are things that bring developing nations up into modernity. It's even having like some like access to some of the most kind of you know benign levels of technology. Like I said, a bus station where you can just sit out and charge your phone.
Mm-hmm. And you have to take into consideration that most of these new phones won't even have USB charging ports. So wireless
It'll be
charging.
wireless charging, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You got to think about the last mile. When I think about Africa, and I think like DE was saying before about the lack of paved roads,
Mm-hmm.
you would need some form of all-terrain vehicle, and there are new EV scooters that are ATV based.
Dude, like not even to like, I mean, fuck it. Or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use that term, but just to bring it up, right? Let's look at like Black Panther, right? The roads weren't paved in all of Wakanda, right? But there was a highly technological civilization existed. There, like I can see there being a marriage of like technology and nature, right? The two can coexist. So I don't believe you necessarily have to have paved roads. So like you said, dude, like you could take one of those little Xiaomi scooters and just throw some knobby tires on it.
Right in the
It-
backpack.
yeah, dude, those are 250-watt motors on those things. It's powerful.
Africans don't weigh that much, despite the fact, despite what people think about Africans in America, they don't actually weigh that much.
250 watts on one of those scooters will get you around, dude. Like, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you guys have seen Africans traveling on scooters. And I saw a guy with a cow on a scooter. I'm not kidding you.
Wait, what?
Bro, transportation. I saw a guy with a cow on a scooter. I'm not kidding. I've seen 3 goats on a scooter. A scooter now, 49cc, 50cc scooter.
Oh, okay.
So,
You're talking about a gas powered one. Yeah.
yeah.
But still, like, okay, so a 4950cc scooter, I mean, that's really not that much more powerful than one of those 250, 300-watt electric motors.
Exactly.
You know, both will move about 250. Well, I mean, if this dude got cows, man, I guess yeah, damn, okay,
Maybe you meant a calf.
yeah, like
Well,
a cat.
no. Well, they have different cows come in different different. You can have a cow that's going to be 1,000 pounds, and you can have a cow that's going to be probably about 400 pounds. You understand?
Well, I'm saying, but for a 50cc scooter, man, that's still a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Damn, yeah. I mean, I used to build 50cc race motors for those scooters, man. And, you know, it was like if you threw like 220 pounds on it, that kind of bogged it down. So
Well, it's not about.
I mean, it's utility. It's for utility. It ain't for racing and all that crap. It's for utility, right? So you got a gas motor. It's like I'm gonna pull some shit with it.
Exactly, because look, I've seen people who got to get up and go from 200 kilometers to market. You know, from up river to the city, and that's 200 kilometers. They got to leave home at 3 o'clock in the morning. And they get into the city about 9 o'clock in the morning, sell their stuff, and then head back home. So any kind of transportation personal transportation that you can develop will keep that person from have to wait for a bus or some kind of vehicle that they got to pay to get on.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the EV, where Mike was talking about, like the lightweight electric scooters would actually work quite well, because, you know, electric motors largely don't have, they're relatively impervious to the conditions, like as far as dirt roads, dust, rocks, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the motors are closed.
Oh yeah.
You know, the systems are closed, so you don't really have to worry about mechanical failures too much, right? Electric motors also have like way less moving parts than, say, like gas vehicles do. There's more things to go wrong. So
Right.
a more reliable mode of transportation in these environments would actually be electric.
Yeah, if you have charging stations, like Mike was saying, if you have charging stations at strategic points, then there's no time for you to get to where you're going. You'll cut your travel time down to way down.
Yeah, and DE, that's where those things like park benches, bus benches and stuff that also double as charging stations would be key. And I hate talking about this stuff live because I'm getting business ideas. But screw it.
Well,
Like,
It's a vast continent. I mean,
No, I know, I know. I'm being facetious, but
yep.
I mean,
Say that. You might here in America where an idea comes up and you got 50 people who fighting to get put that idea in place. In Africa, you have that idea here, and you say, you know what? Next year I'm going to Africa. I look and see where I can do that. And
right.
you'll find every village that you go to, you say, man, that's ideal place. So you have
Yeah,
a
you know,
village
it's
that you
vast. It's
build out.
vast.
You start
Yeah,
and build it out.
yeah, it's vast.
You know.
Hmm. But I mean, just talking about it, discussing it, and kind of exploring the scenarios, you know, you see not one, the viability, and then two, it's also it's not that much of a stretch to actually implement it, you know.
It's more of a labor.
Right,
It's more
right.
labor that's going to be the upfront cost, not so much as the infrastructure itself. The infrastructure is going to come out of the labor itself.
Well, one of the things that I'm seeing, and it's not being spoken of, is that we hear this narrative about these poor, starving Africans trying to get over to Europe, but you don't hear about those Africans who say, you know what, I'm tired of working in England, the cold, the negative, kickback from my co-workers. I'm going back to Nigeria. I'm no, going back to Ghana. I'm going back to Liberia. I'm going back to Kenya, Uganda, and I'm going to do what I'm doing here. And I'm seeing a lot of people. I get on an airplane going to Africa, and normally I go to Morocco. And when I get on the airplane in Morocco, the whole terminal is African. All these Africans are going home.
Oh yeah.
So that's the narrative you hear from here. All these starving Africans. Not that it's not happening; it is happening. But going the other way is also happening. Another knowledge is going back into Africa.
As it should.
Right, and there needs to be an understanding of whether or not there is famine, but more importantly, these people are bringing their money back from London and Europe and these other places, especially America. $1, I think one American dollar is worth like 300 Nigerian dollars, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
So
it's pushing it.
yeah, your spending power is immense. So you come over there with, and I spoke with the girl in Namibia. I forget her name. I spoke with her a couple years ago, and she told me, 25 grand would have you, will set you, a pretty. It'll give you a lot of flexibility, basically.
Namibia is one of those places that you can they really want people to come in, and the only people who are going in there is the Chinese and South Africans too, the Afrikaner, you know.
Hmm.
But Namibia is one of those places where it would make sense for me as an African American to go, or a man from the Caribbean to go.
Yeah, I think Lionel sent out a video about Botswana, and I've been looking at that as well from a few years ago. Botswana is actually an up and coming place on the continent that's actually insulated from the main water ports, but at the same time, it's actually going to be a thriving place in the next couple of years.
Actually, they're trying to get farmers in there.
Yeah, they need farmers. They need a whole lot of things. There's a whole lot of human capital that they're requesting to come over there. A lot of their cars are imported. They don't manufacture a whole lot of vehicles.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of Fords and scooters and bikes and stuff like that they're looking to import because they don't actually have the facilities to manufacture. Um, Same
You
thing
said
with
this is Botswana.
yeah,
Yeah,
Botswana is popping. It is really really popping over there.
Okay.
Really really popping over there. Tanzania is on the come up too. I think the video that Lionel sent out actually shows all of this. How Botswana has highways that interconnect to all five states or all five countries. South Africa, Zimbabwe,
Hmm.
what do you call that? Namibia, and I think they connect to the DRC if I remember correctly as well. So
That'll make them a good hub.
yeah, they're an excellent hub. They have a lot of diamonds. They have a lot of coal. They have a lot of raw resources that are need to be mined.
Mm.
Their technology sector is starting to pop up now too. So it's another. We got to do a hangout just on Africa alone, sub-Sahara Africa.
Sub-Saharan. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just kind of just like jot down
Dissect
each
it.
state,
Yeah. Yeah.
look at all the resources, look at all the opportunities. We've done that earlier in the year, I think, with the African Mobile Tech Talk that we had. But
Mm-hmm.
got to look at from a wide lens and to say, okay, what are they doing here? What do they need?
Yeah, there's still a lot of gaps to fill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got to start thinking about autonomous vehicles as being part of infrastructure development. We covered an article about a week or so ago about Africa and AI, and they're ramping up artificial intelligence development as we speak. You got people who don't even know what our AI is, and they're already, going to these little meetups and stuff over there that they develop. Here I rarely see any black people in terms of
Oh God, no.
emergent tech. In terms of talking about emergent tech, we're the only.
The discussion is like not being had anywhere.
Mm-hmm. We're the only source on YouTube, as far as I know of, and anybody in chat can correct me if I'm wrong, that is actually talking about this collectively. They're over there having those conversations. They're over there having those conversations on a massive scale. Places that can only fit 100 people, getting 800 people in and stuff like that. They're talking about autonomous vehicles. This was last couple of weeks that we covered that article. They're talking about developing Africa for autonomous vehicles. So,
Man.
Again, Udacity. Let me make sure I put the link in the chat because it's gonna bug me if I don't.
If you think about it, it is the ideal place to do something like that because they don't have the old infrastructure like here in the U.S. and Europe. They don't have to tear up anything. They can build it right in.
Well, the thing is that with all these new types of vehicles, this new type of stuff that's going to be built, these are going to be built in like gigafactory type environments, which are going to be from the ground up. This is a whole new type of manufacturing process, right? So that means the building in which the manufacturing is going to take place is going to have to be new from the ground up. So dude, that would be the best place, given how resource rich Africa is. Mm-hmm. You may as well build gigafactories there.
Mm-hmm. Because they have the resources. They have
the resources right there. Yeah.
Yeah, they have the cobalt and all the necessary resources there, and that's part of the issue. And I think we covered an article a couple months ago about scientific laboratories being built out of shipping containers, and I think it was the UK or something like that.
Yeah.
Shipping containers, just carve them out a little bit and put a few desks in there and do all your laboratory work in there. Yep, that's a part of the infrastructure. So
I saw a guy in Kenya. He couldn't get printers. The printers that will print plastics. That he made one. Mm-hmm. Brother made it. Serious. Mm-hmm. And he showed us how to make it.
I mean, I've seen a video of the dude who built his own drone, like the one where you get in and fly it.
Well, keep in mind that Vocast actually built his own 3D printer as well.
Yeah, he did. He built his own rig.
He's one of our fellowship members of the Black Brain Trust. So I'm sharing my screen right here from Udacity.com. Autonomous Systems Nano Degree Program. Basically, Udacity has a nano degree program that's 6 months or less, where you can actually learn about autonomous vehicles development. So intro to self-driving cars, nano degree, self-driving car engineer, nano degree, flying car and autonomous flight engineer, nano degree. They're talking about UAVs and robotic software engineer. So you have a myriad of opportunity here to actually get involved in autonomous car development. Most of your autonomous car development has come out of Udacity.
I was gonna say they're not pulling people out of like traditional colleges because they're not coming out of college with this type of specialized skill sets.
No, these people transition from a different career. They was either in some form of software development or some other form of auto manufacturing or something to that effect. But most of these people that are coming out now, they've spun off from Tesla, they spun off from Lyft, Uber, Ford, GM. They're coming out of there. That everybody's leaning off of one other platform. Even network platforms like Palo Alto, they spun off from Cisco. That they all came from Cisco. So, step one is intro to driving self-driving cars, nano degree. Step two is self-driving car engineer, nano degree. These are
So if that one covers statistics, linear algebra, there's computer vision. Okay, so that'd be like graphics. We were talking about like the NVIDIA processing, these chips that they have now that they're putting in cars.
Oh, the AI processing.
Yeah, the AI processing. Yeah.
Oh, and
deep
NVIDIA,
sensor fusion, localization. Yeah.
Yeah, NVIDIA just released their kit last week for AI development, like a Raspberry Pi. It's $100.
Oh, get out! Are you serious?
Yep, they just released it last week.
Hold on, I'm gonna actually pull that up.
Yeah, we're gonna cover it on Monday. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just wait.
Technology, yeah.
Yeah.
So the step one is actually intermediate, and the step two is actually advanced. You're probably not going to get to step two unless you get through step one. But there's going to be massive demand in Africa right now. They're talking about Africa. The article that we covered a few weeks ago was that Africans want to compete with the West on artificial intelligence.
They have the brain capital.
I was just about to say that. They have the brain capital to do it. They just don't have the financial investment. Once they get the financial investment, it's game on.
Man.
And that's where, I think people like us actually come in and help leverage that effort.
I am so game with partnering up. I have my own EV designs, man. Like shit. I would love to tap some engineering expertise to like make it a reality.
Yeah, autonomous. I think autonomous busing is probably going to be the main factor because what Africa lacks is that ability to move 500 people at a time. Because they don't have a whole lot of airlines. I mean, we saw what happened with Ethiopia's airline that went down with the 737 MAX.
Right.
A lot of planes are grounded, and airports are very underserved in terms of transportation. So when you think about in America, you can get on a $10 Chinese bus and go from Boston to New York for $10. How do you compete against something like that? So how do you create a platform from an infrastructure perspective and on the continent that's going to move 50, 60 people at a time at that sort of rate autonomously?
Right.
You're going to have probably designated lanes. You're probably going to need some Wi-Fi infrastructure, 5G, IoT.
Now, Christian asked a question. He said, should we invest? And Mike, I posted a link, if you want to share it, it's Open Motors. It's the Open Motors website.
Where's that at?
I just in the group chat over in the window there. Because these, to answer that question, just to Maddox 12, Christian, I would say absolutely, and I would do so with a project, say, based on something like Open Motors, which is an EV platform that's open source. So that's where I started doing my EV designs. I have them done off of that platform. So the 3D blueprints are openly available, and they can be modified. You can do any number of things with it, but it's open. It's available. Anyone can start their own EV company. So taking something like this into those areas, and you say, should we do we invest? Yeah, I would say we invest in, say, like our own vehicle developed on an open source platform.
Mm-hmm.
You know, taking that position on it, absolutely.
Now, can you explain to everybody what Open Motors is?
Yeah. So, and I actually, like, I know the CEO, man. Like, you know, he helped me a lot with putting together like my designs and my business model. Um, so his name's Tin Liang, and he basically created an open source. It was like an open source project, like an open source electric vehicle, right? It's like a base platform that you could do a number of things with, right? So it's basically like a chassis, and it's it's electric drivetrain, and it's very simple. However, like what you do with it, it could be a truck, a car, it could be any number of things. I've seen lunar rovers made out of it. I've seen race cars made out of it. I've seen lunar rovers, cars, vans, taxis. I've seen just about anything you can think of built off of an open source platform. So there's a whole bunch of companies in Europe. Actually, um, Renault has did a spin-off design off of this. It's with the Twizy. So and then GM actually now GM is a partner in Open Motors. So it used to be OS Vehicle, and I think when GM bought into them, they switched over and they became Open Motors. So that's basically what it is. It's an open source platform. Anybody can start an electric car company if they wanted to. They can literally just download the 3D blueprints and then just design around it. Get your components. You know, the parts could be 3D printed or they could be traditionally manufactured. You know, my model is based on, like, you know, 3D printing and all that kind of stuff. So I had to put it on the back burner, and, you know, maybe we'll revisit it here now that a lot of this new tech is coming online. But this is what will make this is like the future right here. This is kind of like when we talk about autonomous vehicles and all this kind of stuff and development, and, you know, it might seem flighty, it might just seem kind of like outside of your grasp until you look at something like this where it says, okay, here's the blueprints, take it, make your car. Now your cost, the cost of development, the cost to actually do it has been greatly reduced. You know, like when I did all the cost analysis to like build a prototype chassis and all that, it would have only costed me, and I was going to go with like a race car builder to actually build this stuff because I wanted some customization. I wanted all the suspension points to be based on like a Honda Civic, so that you can do different things with it, because there's so many different suspension aftermarket suspension components for Hondas. So the total that I got was like about 13 grand to do a prototype. You know, so I mean, yeah, it's there. It's really just kind of it's being active, man. That's all it is, really. Just being active and taking an active approach at this. The tools are available. It's nothing. It's no different than, say, like an open source software that you could use to develop your own app or whatever software and put it on the market.
If you can build a vehicle like that, and you say your cost is going to be about 13K.
That was for a prototype because
Yeah.
I wanted to do special things with it.
Right, but if you have a platform that your base platform is 13K,
Mm-hmm.
and that vehicle would be a seller in Africa.
Oh,
I'm not kidding. That'd be especially if the reliability is one thing, because you're operating in a climate that's kind of it depends on where you are. If it depends on where you are. If you're in a desert, you know, it's different to if you are close to the ocean. So,
well, that's why I say that's why electric propulsion is very important,
right,
because motors are sealed,
right,
and, you know, there's less moving parts, right? So there's less things to go wrong with an electric car. That's why they're just inherently more reliable.
right.
Yeah. and they're easier to build. It's just a motor, a controller, and some batteries.
Yep.
Simple.
So I
Way
tell you,
easier to build. Yeah.
I've seen people put together cars. I'm serious. I've seen a guy take a frame, a Mercedes-Benz frame. He took it, went to a car. Somebody, people bring people parts from Europe, and this guy took this Mercedes-Benz frame, and within I think it was about 3 months, he had made a Mercedes-Benz out of that frame. So I know that it can be done in Africa. People who they have they have the knowledge. I mean, nobody went to college, but they can do it.
No, absolutely, man. No, absolutely. I don't think that these are inherently like things that are outside of our realm of engineering expertise. It's a car, man. If you could tear down a regular car, fix a regular car, you can build an EV easily.
What I'm saying is that you have the design. You said you can design this thing for a certain amount of money.
Mhm.
Now, it's not that you have to build this huge factory to do it to reproduce this car, because
Oh no.
once you have the people who you're going to show how you want it done, and these guys going to learn, you understand, the technology quite quickly, and they will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And because it's electric, it's components, right?
Yeah.
It's a motor. You plug the controller, you put the motor to the controller, plug the batteries to this. There's not really much that needs to be done outside of just general like assembly, right?
Right.
Assembly and you know, well, basically assembly. It's assembly and then maintenance, right? Uh, Maintenance and repair. So being able to do diagnostics if something's going wrong, if there's some sort of
Oh, if
problem with
you're
yeah, it's simple stuff, but it's stuff that's totally doable, and Africa totally has the brain capital, to support an EV industry. They totally have the brain capital to support it without question.
Yeah, I mean, now you're talking about drafting up policies as well. Because if you're pushing the technology and the infrastructure itself, you're also tying in the soft portion of it as well, which is the policy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really understand uh, the legalization of certain aspects as well. You're trying to make sure that you're not liable, and things of that nature. But um, yeah, you can build certain things. You can turn a wrench. You can solder. But when it comes to actually talking and interfacing with state government and members of parliament, you got to be able to articulate that to those people so that it can actually get support on the ground.
Well, I was gonna say the main thing, the main way to do that is to offload as much of this to them as possible. I don't want to go. I wouldn't want to go in Africa, right? And then do what the Chinese do and bring a bunch of. I'm not trying to bring a bunch of African Americans to come over there to do the work. It's you offload it on them, so it's you. It's kind of like a meet us halfway here, right? Right. We're gonna bring the tech. We're gonna bring you have the brain capital. You are the government. This is your country. However, we're gonna bring the tech to fulfill a need here. Let's strike a partnership, right? So I would largely be looking on them to write policy and legislation to fit, the face of their nation's needs. You know, I don't really necessarily have that kind of expertise, but I would be looking to strike a partnership on that level to where we could basically work towards policy, but let them largely take care of that. And shit, I bring the tech and the know-how.
well, you got countries like Botswana that
Hmm.
actually building areas in the country where, say, you got a plan, like your plan. You go to the government and say, look, we want to build this, and the government actually chooses the say some university, and they say, well, we go to this university, we're going to test the students, we're going to hire them, and then we're going to bring them to your factory, and they're going to produce this equipment that you want done. That's it. That's how they do it. But it's done in an area that is like the workers come to you. You understand? It's like like what they would call a tax-free zone in the West. And there I mean almost every country in Africa has one. Not West Africa, East Africa has one of these. All the way from Ethiopia all the way down to South Africa has one of these areas where, and most of the people who operate there now are Chinese, Indians, Lebanese.
Yep.
Not kidding you. Lebanese, Chinese, and Indians.
Well, they came with money, man. You know.
That's the reality.
You can't really knock them for that. I mean, and the question is, I mean, I know you and I are Bayesian, but you know, Black Americans don't seem to grasp this point. They think that they can go over there as an individual and challenge, you know, nation states. That's just not going to happen. You know, it's been proven that as a failure many times before, and you will lose a lot of money, if not lose your sanity. So, my advice and closing thoughts on this is that focus on the infrastructure piece, focus on the micro infrastructure, more importantly, because large scale infrastructure is an endeavor that is a group effort that requires a lot more investment that most people don't have. You don't have the logistics and supply routes to actually back you up on that endeavor. Unless you're a whale. If you're not a whale,
I was gonna say you got to be big time to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So focus on the micro infrastructure piece, things that are tangible on the ground, things that could actually be moved by two people or more, are areas of focus that should be made a priority in terms of that sort of development. I mean, we covered agriculture, just the small things such as solar panel arrays being set up as a microgrid to actually provide electricity for farmers is something that these areas of the continent actually need, and is being largely neglected. Water conservation, the ability to actually bring your investment over there and bring in order, go to Alibaba.com and order 1,000-gallon rain collector or a tank to hold that much water, and think about what 1,000 gallons can actually do for a farm out there.
Yeah, especially if you're incorporating drip irrigation systems and stuff.
Right. I mean, that's my direction I'm going right now. I'm looking at looking at Tanzania and Uganda. I'm kind of shy away from Uganda though, because it's problem with them, and they having problems with their neighbors. So Tanzania to me is looking very good. Tanzania, Ethiopia.
You know, D, I'll have to send you. There was an infographic that I created a couple of weeks back. I sent it over to Mike. It's kind of sort of like a visual infographic of sort of how did you describe it, Mike? It's kind of like an infographic that
topology.
Yeah. It kind of explains what we talk about in sort of like an info. It's like in a graphic sense, right? So you can look at it and it kind of breaks down, kind of like, okay, you know, subject matter per region, and then it's kind of like what the key areas of maybe say like areas of interest or opportunity or investment, right? In all the continental regions, and then it splits off to as far as like a domestic side and then an international side. So I have to send that over to you.
Oh, okay.
Lionel, you have any closing thoughts? I think Lionel's asleep. DE, you have any closing thoughts?
Just that right now we have to move from well, you have to have your hands in both sides of any argument. So um, the people on one side have to be able to work with people on the side. We have to start looking at things more seriously. We will look at when we go to buy a car, the average American will look at Black American will put more into going to buy the car than planning his future. And we have to like really focus on planning for our future more. Even though we want to enjoy ourselves now, but you still got to put more into planning for the future. Economics, business, we have to start doing that because with the world falling down around us, we have to be the world now. We can't complain. We got to stop complaining about how we're being beaten down, and we have to be the world because when they fall, we can't afford to fall with them.
Complex, you have anything?
I mean, not necessarily, because this is kind of like an ongoing discussion with us, right? It's always kind of like a to be continued sort of thing.
Yeah, Christian in the chat seems to throw some question marks. I'm not sure what he's confused upon.
Or was it a question? He said, "Should we?" I think he asked a question, "Should we invest?" And I don't. I thought I might have answered it, or maybe that was towards something else. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he hasn't really specified.
Okay.
You can invest, but you gotta be active, and you can't go there blindly. You have to go. Um, it's like you got to prepare the ground. You got to do the groundwork, the legwork, and see where it's needed, and then go from there. It's not like Wall Street where you can open up your computer and look at what stock to buy. You got to be physically available there. If you're going to invest in Africa, you got to do it.
Yep, you need to bring at least 6 figures. So coming with anything less than that is a waste of time. All right, so with that being said, we will return on Monday with space and technology. Thank you all for joining us and have a good weekend.